What is going on, you beautiful bastards? Welcome to the channel. I'm Brandon Sylvia, and if you are new, consider subscribing. So today we are going to be going over the greatest open world games of all time, and I will pull it up here for you all to see. We have the tier maker. I created a tier list here of some of the greatest open world games ever made, and we will be going through and ranking them. Some of the biggest franchises, as you see, the Grand Theft Auto franchise, the Saints Row franchise, etc. And yeah, I've been playing through Saints Row, the reboot, and I just started thinking about all the damn open world games that I've played over my lifetime. I could probably put together another three of these tier makers here. It's just open world games have always been my favorite genre. Survival horror and open world games have always been what I gravitate towards. I love, being able to kind of just explore this open sandbox and going around and causing mayhem and seeing what you can get yourself into. It's like I have that Pavlovian response, where even with the Saints Row reboot, as many problems as it has, like I'm just, I'm running around the open world. I'll see a nice ass mansion and a pool over there, and I'm like, oh, let me go and jump in their pool and climb on top of their roof and see if I can find anything. And with the Saints Row reboot, unfortunately, there's often not a lot to find, but we'll get to that in a second. I don't think that game is as bad as people are saying, but regardless, we're going to be ranking the greatest open world games of all time. I have the categories here, or the ranking slots here. We have the GOATs. These are the greatest of all time, the greatest open world games of all time, the greats, the damn goods, the solids, and the okays. So let's go ahead and kick it off with the Grand Theft Auto franchise, starting with three. I'm going to go the greats with three. Three didn't connect with me the way that Vice City did, which Vice City were going the goats. I think Vice City just took everything that three did and made it a whole lot better, had a much better setting, in my opinion. The vibrant neon aesthetic of Vice City, this 80s Miami drug fueled storyline. Vice City worked with me on every level. San Andreas, goat. San Andreas, absolutely a goat. This is my favorite Grand Theft Auto by a mile. And whenever I think about the best open world games ever, one of the main criteria that I think to is, what can I do in this open world outside of the main story? And San Andreas, in my opinion, out of all the Grand Theft Auto games, has the most engaging open world to interact with. You're going to the bar and playing pool. You have the arcade games. You have basketball that you can go and play. You can go to the gym. You're going and customizing your vehicles, like different chicks that you're going out on dates with. And then, not to mention, they give you an entire new location. A little bit more than midway through the game, you have an entire new location with this Las Vegas style setting. And it's just that mind blowing revelation where you're like, holy shit, I just got a new game in my new game. San Andreas was a masterpiece. CJ, incredible character. And I could go on and on about it, but we have friggin' 40 other games to get through. Grand Theft Auto 4, I don't even feel good about ranking this one. I'm going to go damn good. I need to replay this. I played it whenever I was a kid, and I just couldn't get over the fact that they went for a much more realistic tone with Grand Theft Auto 4, and I just wasn't really expecting that. I had always known Grand Theft Auto to be zany and over the top, and Grand Theft Auto 4 went for a much more story focused approach to the story. And with the entire world, it kind of all followed suit, where everything just felt much more grounded, much more serious, much more real, much more gritty. And so yeah, I need to go back to it, because I think as an adult I could probably appreciate that a lot more. But I got to go off of what I got to go off of. And I do have it downloaded on the Series X. I have a physical copy of it. I have it downloaded, ready to go. So I do want to play through it within the next, hopefully, couple years or so. Grand Theft Auto 5, I am going to go, it's going to go in the greats. It's not on the level of Vice City or San Andreas, like I said, just personal opinion, but I thought that what they did with swapping between the three different characters on the fly, just mind blowing. The heist missions were so fun, but there was really never that character that I connected with. Like Franklin, Michael, and Trevor all had interesting character arcs, and Michael's marital issues, Trevor's schizophrenia, Franklin's sort of Franklin was just kind of like the everyman. The he was more relatable, and then I feel like he was probably my favorite character, but nobody really hit like that CJ level of story that you were able to really buy into. Where CJ, it felt like he was trying to climb out of something, like he really didn't belong where he was at, and he was just caught up in the story, the you're talking about the tragedy with his mom passing, and he's coming back, and he's trying to just keep everything together, and then the betrayal and Samuel L. Jackson. It was just, that story was so damn good. And Grand Theft Auto 5, it was a good story, but when you're not really buying in it, and I bought in to a degree, but I just couldn't buy in the way I could with San Andreas. And I didn't think the world was as engaging to interact with. I didn't think the side missions and just different activities were as fun to mess around with, but still undoubtedly a fantastic game that probably one of the best, if not the best, recreation of a city ever put into a game. Saints Row 1. I'm going to go solid on Saints Row 1. And I'm going to go Saints Row 2. I'm going to put Saints Row 2 actually in the great tier. I think Saints Row 2, just same with Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City, except Saints Row 2 was a huge leap up. It kept a lot of the more grounded, serious kind of gang warfare going on, and it felt like a lot more rooted in realism, but it got to the point where it was starting to get a lot more fun, a lot more kind of over the top and zany, with like the insurance fraud, and just the customization was kicked up to the next level. The gunplay was much better, the driving and everything in Saints Row 2 was just hitting at that next level pace. And yeah, I think Saints Row 1 is solid, but Saints Row 2 was just better on really every level. And then we get to, I got to swap these around here. We get to Saints Row 3. Saints Row 3, I really think, is in the greatest of all time tier. I really do. It's at that time when it came out, I believe it was 2012 or 11. There really wasn't another open world game that was doing as much as Saints Row 3 and doing all of it as well as Saints Row 3. I remember the shooting in Saints Row 3 in particular being like the best shooting I'd ever really felt in an open world game. And it was just mechanically really, really sound, along with having crazy fun missions to mess around with. You're talking about the Kanye power mission. You're talking about, the weird like little mini games where you're like on this television show and you're competing in these death trials, and you got freaking Killbane and this crazy storyline that's still it's definitely not what you would consider grounded by any stretch of the imagination. But you get to Saints Row 4 and the wheels really come off. Saints Row 4 is just a superhero game with the Saints Row name. And to me, I think that this really fell off to a huge degree. I think it's still a good game. It's still a solid game. You can have fun with it, but it's just a superhero game. It really is just a superhero game with the Saints Row name attached to it. And I don't know. For me, 3 was just the pinnacle of Saints Row. And then we get to the Saints Row reboot, and I'm going solid as well. I think that I really enjoy this game, and I think I would actually put Saints Row the reboot ahead of 4 and maybe right behind 1 as of right now. But I'm about whatever 15, 20 hours into it. I definitely still need to finish it. It might fall off drastically by then, but I am having enough fun with this game. It's just really, really repetitive, and all the Saints Row games can get repetitive, I will admit that, but it just didn't feel like this level of repetitiveness. Each Saints Row game was trying to offer you up enough new to see, and not kind of, you weren't repeating the same tasks over and over and over again. They were trying to mix it up a little bit. And so far, the Saints Row reboot, it's a lot of repetitive doing the same shit, doing the same styles of missions. But I will say that they do that idea, that main idea there of introducing like this kind of crime business management aspect. The idea is excellent. It's just the implementation's not incredible. I haven't had bugs or really anything like that to like game breaking bugs yet. I know a lot of people have talked about that, and so I don't have that to complain about. I don't think the characters are as bad as people are saying, but it's a little bit more bland. It's just kind of like diet Saints Row. It doesn't feel as compelling on really any level. There's no edge to it whatsoever, and that kind of defined Saints Row for many years. Mafia 1. I'm going to do the Mafia remake here because I played Mafia 1 as a kid, but playing through the remake, it was, yeah, I loved Mafia 1, the remake. I'm going to go in the greats, honestly. I just think the story alone for Mafia 1 is upper echelons of open world stories ever told, and how the city is really used as kind of just a backdrop for the story. It's not really a fun open world to mess around with. So that would knock it, out of ever going in that GOAT tier for me. But it is definitely one of the greats. And just the story alone is so good. And the remake's just a damn good playing video game. And with Mafia 2, I'm going to go to the greats tier as well. Mafia, the whole series, the whole franchise is really all about the narrative. And I think what 2 does, with Vito Scaletta and the, like, I don't really want to spoil the ending of Mafia 1, but let's just say if you finish Mafia 1, play through the remake of Mafia 1, hop into 2, it's like, what the hell? The way it ties together is so brilliant. And then it goes into, exploring almost an entire decade as you go to prison and then get out of prison. You go into prison. I believe it's like the mid 40s. You get out of prison in the early 50s. So you're getting to explore like an entire decade almost of a cultural change. The music has changed when you get out of prison. The vehicles are different. Like there's actually different things going on in the open world. And it's just a really, really great storyline with Mafia 2. Mafia 3, I man, Mafia 3. I personally really, really liked this game. I loved the story. I think it's the second best Mafia story. I'm going to put it in the damn good tier though, because I think the mission structure is repetitive to like an unforgivable point. Lincoln Clay is probably my favorite main protagonist out of any of the Mafia characters, but I just the mission structure is unforgivable. The gameplay is good, it is solid, it feels good to play, but it's so much of the same between level to level, between mission to mission. Certain settings are immaculate. Their recreation of New Orleans and just that once again, it's Mafia is so great at like capturing the essence of a timepiece. This sort of 60s, 70s setting with Mafia 3 and capturing the real racism that was going on in the South at that time and just going on across the nation at that time. Really great attention to detail and fantastic kind of flash forward storytelling and then introducing like Joey Diaz. It was such good casting across the board throughout this title. And yeah, I would have to say it's definitely in the damn good if the mission structure wasn't just that repetitive, because it came out in like 2016 or 2017. It's a little bit unforgivable for a modern open world title and for the mission structure to be repetitive on that level. But the story was just so good. Infamous 1. I'm going to go Infamous 1 in the damn good tier. You know what? No, Infamous 1's going in the great tier. The world of Infamous 1, not as great as 2, but what Infamous 1 really gets right is just setting a prototype for such an incredible gameplay feel. You know, having so many different powers you're swapping in and out of simultaneously, like the redirect rocket, where you're shooting the rocket, redirecting it with your hand, just causing total chaos and mayhem inside of these open world settings. And I thought the story with Infamous One with Cole was good, but not great. Like it definitely left a lot to be desired with just the way it was depicted and kind of like these more comic book style of still shots that the story was told using. I didn't love that, but just the gameplay feel for just setting the ground for what Infamous 2 could kind of take to the next level. I got to put it in the great tier. Infamous 2 is one of the greatest open world games of all time, though. Once again, that New Orleans style of setting, their fictionalized version of New Orleans, and really making you Infamous 1, like I said, sets the ground for giving you, choice and picking between a good arc or an evil arc. But Infamous 2 actually makes that system compelling and engaging by introducing two different characters that you are picking between. It's, I forget their name. Was it Lucy Quo? And I forget the other lady's name, but it's these two different characters that one is kind of the example of good, one is the example of evil, and siding with one over the other is going to drastically affect your playstyle and the different powers that you can get. And so, like, say you commit to a good arc, but the quote unquote evil character, which you can kind of at times the evil path doesn't necessarily feel as evil. It feels maybe more justified. So you're slightly more compelled to choose that side, to side with maybe a bad arc. But in turn, are you willing to sacrifice this good play style that you've been building up, and you have all these powers acquired from choosing the good arc? And so it's just it makes that system a whole lot more fun. The boss battles are next level. The scale and destructibility are next level. It keeps all the best powers intact while even introducing more. This is one of the best open world games of all time, bar none. Infamous Second Son, I'm going to go solid. It's solid. It's in that tier with the Saint. I didn't know that the Saints Row games were totally filling up the solid tier, but yeah, Infamous Second Son, it just doesn't deliver like the first two games. Not even by a long shot, really. It's just so much less. It's so much less. What's the word here? I guess they do have a diverse kind of skill trees and diverse powers, but it's all contained into these three different power structures. And if you are using, if you want to like combine and swap different things in and out, you can't really do that. Whereas with Infamous 1 and 2, it's kind of about building this character to your liking and just using all the tools in your arsenal. With Infamous Second Son, you just kind of pick, like, okay, do I want to be this more Flash style character? Do I want to be this more thing style character? Do I want to use the wings? And like, you can swap in and out of the different powers, but I like with Infamous 1 and 2 just being able to use anything at any time. And yeah, Infamous Second Son also has, I think, hands down the worst main character with Deslin or whatever, Delson, and just yeah, I did not like the story at all. Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3. Okay, so we're getting into the Far Cry games. Where the hell do the Far Cry games go here? We got the greats, and that's GTA 3, 5, Saints Row 2, Mafia 1, 2, and Infamous. Oh, yeah. I think Far Cry 3 would go with the greats. And from that point, it just starts to get a little bit worse. I think Far Cry 4 would go in the damn good slot. I think Far Cry 5 would go in the solid slot. And I think Far Cry 6 would go in the solid slot. I still wouldn't. No, I'd put Far Cry 6 in the okay slot. I think it's just gotten a little bit worse over time. Eh, no, I'm going to go Far Cry 6 in solid because I did like the story in Far Cry 6 more than Far Cry 5. But I just think it's gotten progressively worse and tired over time. With 3, it's this crazy introduction to like a real good story with Voss, and just it's more Far Cry 2, which is not a game I've played a ton of, but Far Cry 2 was it seemed to be more like grounded and more realistic and more survival based. I need to play through that one so I could, put it on a ranking or something at some point. But the Far Cry 3, it really was like it felt so at the time next gen, where it was allowing you to tackle missions any way, shape, or however you wanted to, or however you could find a way to tackle these missions. Far Cry 3 was allowing you to do that in this almost immersive sim-esque quality. And with that game, it kind of set the bar at that time. Deus Ex had been doing it, other games have been doing it, but it definitely set the bar for Far Cry and for Ubisoft game design. And then from that point on, it just got a little bit it, it relied on that formula without doing a ton to really expand it. So yeah, it goes to 4 at the damn good, 5 and 6 at the solid. Horizon Zero Dawn. Or no, is that Forbidden? Let's see. I think that is. Yeah, okay. Zero Dawn. Okay, yeah, I got it right. Okay. So why is it still zoomed in? There we go. We have Zero Dawn first. I think Zero Dawn is in the Oh man, I think Zero Dawn's in the damn good tier. I don't think it's quite in the greats. I think Forbidden West is definitely in the greats. Forbidden West is just uh, such an improvement from you're talking about the best looking character models I've ever seen in games, some of the best side quests I've ever seen in games. Not as great a story in Forbidden West as Zero Dawn, in my opinion, but everything other than that, huge improvements across the board. And but Zero Dawn is still a damn good game, and I definitely think it belongs in the damn good tier. But Forbidden West is probably, I don't know about my game of the year, but it's really close to my game of the year so far for 2022. I think it's definitely in the great slot. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm actually going to put Assassin's Creed Odyssey in the great. Nah, I'm going to put it in the damn good tier. I think that with Odyssey, let me look here. Okay, we have yeah. I'd put Odyssey in the damn good tier. It's like a A minus B plus style of game. I loved Odyssey though. I really did love Odyssey. I just thought Odyssey was such a you know I never played an Assassin's Creed game, so I wasn't tired of that formula. But I just even I out of all, like you see, I play a ton of open world games. Odyssey was so much different in that it was a open world third person action adventure game, but it was giving you like real meaningful choice. And having this crazy story of like, going underwater and exploring these caves, and just it was giving you a ton to really engage with. And yeah, like the battles where you're choosing the different factions that you want to align with, and going into these battles and the cultist missions, and it had a ton of content. I played it for like 70 freaking hours and enjoyed it throughout the entirety of it. And then I was just really surprised by how much agency the game gave you, and like you could really impact the narrative slightly with your decisions, which I would have never expected. Also with introducing the Nemesis system slightly to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Really impressive. I was very impressed by Odyssey. Valhalla, I'm gonna go okay for Valhalla. Valhalla just didn't do it for me. I didn't finish Valhalla. I never felt compelled enough to go through it. It was just okay to me. I thought that the visuals were subpar. Um, or at least the version of it I played it on a release. It was buggy. It was buggy as shit. The online integration was weird, and the kind of microtransactions that were littered into the single player campaign just Valhalla didn't do it for me at all. And it sucks because that aesthetic and setting and this Assassin's Creed Viking game is obviously so cool on paper, but it just didn't do it for me. Judgment. I'm going to put Judgment in the damn good tier. Yeah, I'm gonna put Judgment. No, I'm gonna. What am I saying? Judgment's going in the greats. Judgment and Lost Judgment are both going in the greats. I love Yagami. I think he is one of my favorite characters of this new generation of new characters that were created in a new IP. I really hope we see more of Yagami and his detective agency going forward. But I think with Judgment, it was just I'd never played a Yakuza game. I jump into Judgment and I get this detective thriller with the similar mechanics to the Yakuza games. So it was all new and fresh to me, and I just had a ton of fun with it. And then with Lost Judgment, you introduce just a crazy amount of side activities with the school missions where you're going in skateboarding, you're going into these boxing classes, you're going into you know you had like the motorcycle stuff, you had the robotic stuff, you had the dancing. Like it was so much game there. And when I'm once again looking at great open world games, it's a lot more about what else can I do other than the main campaign. The main campaign for the original Judgment for the first game much better than the main campaign for Lost Judgment, but everything else, the side activities, I Lost Judgment far and away much better in my opinion. It still has like the batting cages, but it has golf, and it still has like the arcades, but it has going off to the bar and mingling with chicks and just yeah, Lost Judgment is incredible. But so is the original. Fallout 3. Fallout 3 once again going in the greats tier for sure. Fallout 3 was my first ever Fallout experience, and I just had never really had that like sense of wonder about like what is that over there? Who are these characters? Oh, well, you got a whole damn hour long mission quest that I can go on, and it was just a game that was all about discovery, and in a way that I'd never really felt before, that I could kind of impact the world based off of what I was choosing to do, based off of where I was choosing to go. Like it was just a wanderer's paradise. And yeah, it was immaculate. Fallout 4, I will go I'm gonna go the okay tier for Fallout 4. I just it did not do it for me at all. It's once again, I'd never finished it. So for me, if I don't finish a game, I'm did I bring New Vegas on here? Damn, I didn't include New Vegas, but I did finish New Vegas recently, and I would put New Vegas higher than I would probably put New Vegas slightly higher than or on the same, maybe actually a little bit lower than Fallout 3. I was going to say slightly higher, but maybe a little bit lower actually. But yeah, Fallout 4 just did not do it for me. I don't know if it was the introduction of the voiced protagonist, or I really don't know what made Fallout 4 so so much less engaging for me. I don't think it's a bad game, and I put like whatever 25 hours into it. I was just like it just didn't click for me, and I think it came out at a time where was that 20, I believe it was 2015, which would have been the same year as The Witcher. And you're talking about a game in The Witcher that it did what Fallout did in the sense of agency, in the sense of wonder, in the sense of having a true impact on the narrative based off of what you're choosing to do, but also giving you good gameplay. And other RPGs at the time were beginning to give you good gameplay, and it just felt like Bethesda forgot or never understood how to make a game that actually played or felt good. Fallout 4 played better than 3, but it was just too little too late. It just wasn't good enough. It did not play good enough. Okay, and now we got all the out of order stuff here. Actually, let me order this a little bit better real quick and we'll jump back into it. Okay, so I slightly changed it around here. We got the superhero games together, Red Dead games together, and just slightly changed it around to make it a little bit more, you know, uh I guess better to the viewers, a little bit more I don't even know what the hell you want to call it, organized, I guess. Batman Arkham City. I'm not as hot on Batman Arkham City as most people. Batman Arkham City, I think I would actually go. I mean, you got to go the great tier. Just there were some fucking great boss battles in Batman Arkham City. I didn't really even like the open world, and I know we're doing an open world tier maker here. The open world really didn't get me. I actually liked exploring the open world more in Arkham Knight, but talking about like the Mr. Freeze boss battle in Arkham City, and the story was just really good, and their use of the open world was interesting, but it just the open world wasn't really what clicked with me in City, but the game is really good. The boss battles are really good, and it's just a once again putting yourself in the time. I think Arkham City would have been 2011 because I think Asylum was '09. Arkham City, you're talking about 2011, a game where Asylum is very, very linear. Well, not linear, it's almost more of a Metroidvania style approach. But Arkham City was a huge departure and a huge next step. And you got to appreciate it for that. But Arkham Knight, I like the open world a lot more, but I like everything else a whole lot less. I'm gonna put Arkham Knight in the damn good tier. It's the narrative is really, really rough in Arkham Knight. Really rough. The performances are great. The visuals are great. It's still like you go and play Arkham Knight right now, you're like, holy shit, this looks next gen. It's a beautiful, beautiful game. And sort of the way that like they have, the rain falling down and everything has this sheen and shine to it. And it's very dark, and it's also so beautiful, and just the way it's presented and what they do with the lighting and the textures, and it's a stunning open world. But the story is just really, really rough with Arkham Knight, and the Batmobile, to use it to explore was incredible, but using it in those like tank combat missions was so damn boring and monotonous, and the Riddler stuff. It was just there was a lot of issues with Arkham Knight. Not to mention the reveal was, man, it was just so blatant and obvious. Hulk Ultimate Destruction. I'm going to go in the greats tier. Maybe this is nostalgia talking. I haven't played through this in a while, but giving you an open world sandbox that you can completely destroy at your leisure with the Hulk. Come on, man. It does not get much more fun than that. It just doesn't. You're talking about a game where you can rip apart tanks and vehicles and take the vehicles and use them as gloves to go around and smash the open world to pieces and smash your enemies to pieces, and just so much fun. Spider-Man 2, we're getting to a point where it's going to get very nostalgic here. Spider-Man 2 it's in the goats for me. I don't know what to tell you. This is the most important superhero game ever made, bar none. This game showed people that superheroes were a very, very viable entity in the game space. It showed people the formula for how to make great superhero games from that point on. And we got a lot of similar titles. Even when you get to Insomniac Spider-Man, it really looked at what made Spider-Man 2 from 2004 or whatever, what made it so great, and how to modernize that. And once again, Marvel Spider-Man, that's another one I would absolutely put in the GOAT tier. It's but not to I really do want to shine a light on Spider-Man 2 for just how important that game really was, and for what it did for like the open world genre in general, and creating that mechanic of the web swinging. And because you look at like Spider-Man 1 for the PlayStation 2, or the PlayStation 1 Spider-Man games, and where you're pretty much web swinging off of nothing, and like that's all fine and good, but with Spider-Man 2 everything felt so controlled and purposeful, and the swinging just had a more dynamic feel, a more realistic feel to it slightly, and you just always felt in control of your movement, almost Tony Hawk-esque in nature, where it had this free flowing, free form movement system, but you never felt like you always felt like you were in control. It never got too chaotic. And to do that in an open world where like the domino effect can happen at any time, if one part falls down, all the others fall alongside it. Somehow Spider-Man 2, it just they didn't do that. And with Insomniac Spider-Man, it took from the template of Spider-Man 2 and just modernized it with one of the best Spider-Man stories I've ever seen told, just emotionally gripping from front to back, sad but fantastic. Ultimate Spider-Man, I'm gonna go in the great tier. It's very similar to Hulk Ultimate Destruction in a lot of ways, where it's like with Venom, you get to use an Ultimate Spider-Man, which is so damn sick. And Venom plays a lot like Hulk from Ultimate Destruction. And with Ultimate Spider-Man, the visuals alone put it in the great tier for me. It's just such a unique, visually pleasing video game. Red Dead Redemption 1, I still have not finished this yet. I'm about 40% of the way through or so. I'm playing it on the Series X. I actually began playing it last year. I haven't finished it yet, so I hate even putting it. I'm gonna put it on the great tier. I played it obviously before, but replaying it now after playing Red Dead Redemption 2, I'm like, oh man, it's just so hard to put myself back in the mindset of someone in 2010 and be able to appreciate it for what it was in 2010, because in 2010 that story was mind-blowing and so captivating and just and so solid. The character work was so solid, but then when you see freaking what's his name, Roger Clark, I believe, the voice actor for Arthur Morgan, and just the performance work across the board in Red Dead Redemption 2. And then man, Red Dead Redemption 2 is just, it's literally one of the greatest games ever made, and it's absolutely going in the GOAT tier. And it's just hard to go back to Red Dead Redemption 1 after playing 2. And I do want to finish it though, just to say that I have finished it. I hate having it just sitting there as a game that is so iconic and beloved that I have not finished. But Red Dead Redemption 2, I don't even really need to say much about this game. It's a world that adapts, and you have to adapt to the world so brilliantly, dress appropriately for the conditions that you're about to embark on, grooming yourself, bringing back food to the camp. And it's just such a lived in world it, really, there's nothing that's even close to it, in my opinion. It's the pinnacle of video games. It's the pinnacle of what can be achieved in with this medium. It's probably the best game ever created. Scarface for the PlayStation 2. I will go I'll go damn good on this one. Almost great, I would say. Scarface for the PS2 is so underrated. The guy that they got to do the guy that they got to play Tony Montana. I mean, it's like his own flavor. It's not Al Pacino directly, it's his own sort of flavor, but it's so close. And he just does such a damn good job of being Tony Montana. And that story of, it's this what if scenario where if Tony Montana doesn't die at the end of Scarface and you have to rebuild your empire from scratch, you're going on and running drugs and building up this crime empire. It's such a good premise for a video game. And the shooting's actually, I would say, a little bit better than like the Grand Theft Auto games. And you know what? Personal thing here, I'm going to put Scarface in the greats tier. And along with that, I'm putting the damn Godfather in the greats tier. We got a lot of damn greats going on here, but hey, we're talking about some of the greatest games of all time. So what can we do? The Godfather, it has the best. Talking about Saints Row with the business management stuff, the Godfather has the best business management out of any open world crime game I've ever played, where you're going in and you have these different people on your payroll and these different business owners, and you're going in and roughing them up to make sure that they're paying you more, paying you accordingly. And that's what I was kind of wanting from this Saints Row game, where you're actually getting to manage the systems of your business empire here, and maybe making a little tinkering a little bit, like, should we go with this option, should we go with that option? We can bring in a little bit more money, but we might increase our heat a little bit more. I would have loved to have seen that in the Saints Row game. But with the Godfather game, you're looking at some of the most iconic moments in the movie, getting to experience that with your created character in the Godfather universe. Incredible. Mercenaries 1, I'm going to go damn good. And Mercenaries 2, I'm going to go solid. Mercenaries 1 was like, it was allowing you to kind of make little small choices with kind of like choosing what to do, how to tackle your missions. And with Mercenaries 2, they went for more of like a realistic look to the game, and the visuals were stunning. It had a more cinematic approach to a lot of the story content, but it felt like some of the agency that you were given in Mercenaries 1 wasn't quite there into, but still the sandbox and destructibility, both of those games are top tier in that regard. Simpsons Hit and Run, I will go. Yeah, you got to go the greats for Simpsons Hit and Run to recreate Springfield. To you have the quickie mart, you have all the locations, you have all the characters, and getting to do missions for the different characters. It's nostalgia 101. And I know there's a lot of talk about potentially remastering. I think that's a brilliant plan. We haven't seen anything from The Simpsons in so long. I just think that right now would be the time to go ahead, bring it back, rekindle the fire a little bit, have the 20s and 30-year olds out there who, or 40, 50, whatever, who played that original game, have them hop back on it and jump into a remastered or a Simpsons Hit and Run 2. I think that it'd be a great idea. The game was just so fun. It was so fun of this Grand Theft Auto in Springfield, but getting to play as the different Simpsons characters. And yeah, Simpsons Hit and Run is such a fun game. The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is not no debate. It's one of the greatest open world games of all time. It's, other than Red Dead Redemption 2, the greatest of all these stories in the top tier, no questions asked. Probably even better than Red Dead Redemption 2 in a lot of regards. Red Dead Redemption 2, in terms of giving you a story that's set in stone and it's going to play out the way it's going to play out, nothing really rivals it. But with The Witcher 3, there's no story that's ever been created that gives you gives you choice over what's going on, gives you choice and consequence with what's going on, and makes it that fun to participate in, and makes it that compelling to where, like, the segment where, not to spoil anything, but like someone's getting tortured and it's all been planned out, and you're having to endure that, you're having to listen to that, and you can choose, like, do I stop this now to save my friend from getting tortured, even though we planned this, and that person said they're able to endure this moment to help get us to where we want to go, to help secure this deal. And so, like, but it allows you, do you have that moment of, like, I'm snapping, I'm ending this shit right now, I can't let this go on anymore. And then just all these different moments in the game with just it goes on forever. You can go on forever talking about hooking up with the witch lady, I forget her name, hooking up with the witch lady, she goes and steals the documents, and then all the DLC, I played through all the DLC, all of that shit is incredible, man. It's an incredible story. Cyberpunk. This is the most difficult one out of anything we've done so far, because Cyberpunk's it's two different games, right? It's a broken mess, but it's, once again, one of the best stories I've ever experienced in a video game, and giving you like that fun sex, drugs, and rock and roll feeling to a story. No game has provided that like Cyberpunk that I've ever played in my life. The Witcher is, this fantasy epic. It's There's nothing like The Witcher in that fantasy epic style of setting and style of story. But Cyberpunk, it's very mature, it's very hard hitting, but it's also very fun, and the characters are incredible, but they're also, it's really not about relatability at all, or it's not about sort of grounding itself in any way. It's over the top, just total hedonism in this dystopic world where it feels like there's nothing left to believe in. So it's just like, fuck it, we're throwing everything at the wall and just going all out. It's an incredible story, and so many great performances throughout it. But you can't, I can't put it in there with the greats. I don't think I got to put it in the damn good, because my experience was met with just an unbelievable, I think the game crashed on me 20 times. So it's like, I was never sure what experience I was going to get. I'm getting this story that's so good and then so much better than anything else ever in that like really mature vein. But it's also met by bugs that I've never seen that level of bugs. And I was playing it on a damn PlayStation 5 a few months after launch, and it was patched. It just wasn't patched good enough at all. I'm sure going back to it now would put it up in that great tier, but even with like, yeah, we won't dive into it anymore. It would probably be bumped up to the greats, but it's not like one of the best playing games ever. The world is a little bit more empty than it should be. And yeah, there's issues with the game, but it's undoubtedly, uh, I would have to say, even regardless of the bugs, a damn good experience. The Evil Within 2, I'm sorry. This is one of the goats for me. This is one of the goats for me. I get it. This is a personal thing, but this is a personal list. There's never been a horror game that tackles an open world that brilliantly, where the world is just used for resources and for going out and acquiring resources, but the world adapts as you are getting stronger and as you are completing different levels in the story. The world brings in the bosses that you just faced in the story to the open world. So it's like, okay, I have to go out into this open world to gather resources to go into the next story bit, but I'm so damn terrified because this boss that was brutal in the last segment of the game is now just, searching around the open world, kind of, going around and doing his thing. And you're trying to avoid him while just getting a damn, getting some more bullets or whatever. And you're going throughout this open world and you're finding different pieces, to piece together Sebastian's story a little bit more and to get more lore details on the in-betweens from the Evil Within 1 to the Evil Within 2. And you're able to tie everything together better by just searching around the open world a little bit. And then, not to mention, that's just like one aspect of the game. When you get into the story, it's so much more linear and it gives you a real narrative to follow along with. But I love kind of having two different games to engage with there. And the Evil Within 2 it's so good in how it uses the open world. Metal Gear Solid 5. I'm going to go, I'm going to put it in the solid tier. I don't think I would put it anywhere higher. This just isn't really what I want from Metal Gear. I think the open world is what hurts Metal Gear 5 the most, in my opinion. Like, that's kind of the last thing I really wanted from a Metal Gear game. I like the linear nature of Metal Gear. It feels a lot more contained and it feels more purposeful. The story is kind of what drives Metal Gear along. And the gameplay in Metal Gear Solid 5 is so good. Don't get me wrong, but I would have just liked that in like maybe much smaller, contained, open segments, like a full, which it's kind of more location to location based, but I just feel like it was just too big for this style of game, in my opinion. And having all the story stuff cut out and all the controversy there, like it's just it didn't feel, as someone who loves the series, it just didn't feel like the right close that I wanted to have on the Metal Gear chapter. Like I don't know. I wish we could have ended it on four. Four felt like an epic conclusion to the games that were before it, and five just didn't really feel like anything. It had a great, it had a great hook, but with an open world stealth based game, and we really hadn't seen a lot like that. But I felt like that was kind of the worst parts of it. It just made me miss the way that the other games were set up in a more linear fashion. It just didn't work for me in an open world setting at all. Days Gone. Days Gone, I'm going to go in the damn good tier. I'm going to go in the damn good tier. I don't think it's up there with these other games. I do think it is a very, 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 very good game. Very, very good game. And I hate that it's not going to ever come back again, more than likely. I don't think there's really anything that deals with that amount of enemies in such a brilliant way. Especially in the zombie game space, where the strategic planning and scouting out the environment and figuring out how what angle to take and what pattern to take to where you can circle around, lure the zombies into a trap. And the horde mechanics are fucking excellent there. The story is good. And it's just, there's a lot of downtime in that game where it can get a little bit boring, but the actual moment to moment gameplay is incredible. And yeah, I really really enjoyed that game, and it definitely had its issues, no doubt, but I think that the sequel could have really been pushing Days Gone to that next level, and it's unfortunate that we will not get that. Ghost of Tsushima, I am going in the greats tier for sure. Ghost of Tsushima, it's probably, when you're looking at Sony first party, I would say that's probably the best gameplay loop out of any of the first party PlayStation titles. Days Gone's actually up there as well in that regard. And you know what, we're putting Days Gone in the greats here. I freaking love Days Gone, but I do think Days Gone and Ghost of Tsushima are like some of the best playing Sony first party games ever made. Jin Sakai, great character. You know, having this feudal Japan Assassin's Creed style of video game, it's just, it's kind of like what should have been done 10 years ago with Assassin's Creed. But Sucker Punch knocked it out of the park. Prototype, I'm gonna go I'm gonna go solid. Prototype solid. It's just like a not as fun Infamous to me, but a little bit darker and but really really repetitive. From I almost want to put it in the okay tier. I'm gonna put it in the okay tier. I'm sorry. I know people really enjoyed Prototype, but I it just felt god damn repetitive. And I know it's, you know, the same team that made Hulk Ultimate Destruction, and that destructibility is very much felt there. It's just it's also the repetitive nature of it's felt there as well. Watch Dogs 1. I should have put Watch Dogs Legion in there as well. Watch Dogs 1, I'm gonna go solid. Watch Dogs 1 was, it was good, man. The story was good. The story was good. Everything else was a bit bland, and it didn't give you a world that really felt fun to play around in, but it was going for a more serious tone. I did think the story with Watch Dogs 1 was good. Just, you know, a lot of the surrounding parts, maybe not so much. No More Heroes 3, damn good. No More Heroes 3, damn good. Not in the great tier, but No More Heroes 3 is damn good. It's really harkening back to an era of games that weren't taking themselves so seriously. It's allowing itself to be fun. It's allowing itself to be a little bit offensive. It's allowing itself to relish in that 90s humor. And there needs to be more. There needs to be more creators who are trying to push the boundary a little bit, trying to push the envelope a little bit. And it's not saying, you know, being offensive in all the horrible ways or anything, but allowing yourself to, you know, if you're a friggin' whatever 40, 50-year old dude creating a video game, creating a storyline, or a 40, 50-year old chick, like your sensibilities and your sense of humor, it's not the same as, you know, 16-year-old kids on TikTok and Twitter. And like, allow yourself to tell your story, you know. And it's so much about No More Heroes 3 is about wrestling and you know, film and campiness and just fun. And it feels like, you know, the teen, like American Pie era humor, but with this hack and slash video game. It's just, it's cool, you know. It's cool. Death Stranding. Let's see. Death Stranding is an okay game. Nothing else really needs to be said. It's just, it doesn't do anything for me at all. Death Stranding was, yeah, it was just incredibly incredibly boring to me. Nothing about it was I, I I I get it. You know, Hideo Kojima is a genius. He is a savant. He is a mastermind in this space. I have nothing but respect for him. This game did nothing for me. It was just a bland walking sim that I just can't get on board with. Like, even if the story was incredible, which I've heard it is, I don't want to play it. So that's just kind of that. If the gameplay is not compelling me to stick around, then it's not compelling me to stick around to see the story. Sleeping Dogs is obviously going in the GOAT tier. Sleeping Dogs is one of the greatest open world games of all time. It's blending so many unique things into one game where you have your Max Payne like slowdown features, you have an Arkham style approach to the combat, you have the Grand Theft Auto style. You're driving around in these crazy action movie moments where you're jumping on tops of the roofs of cars and jumping out of one car onto another, and it has this epic action movie feel to it, but it's also got a solid story about a police officer who's having to infiltrate this criminal underbelly, and he is trying to uncover secrets, but he's getting attached to some of these people and understanding the layers, and understanding why they have been why they're in this lifestyle, and he's getting attached to that lifestyle while he's supposed to be reporting back to the police. So it's this thriller that's also on top of all these great gameplay layers. And it's this mixed martial arts where you're going to the dojo and training different moves, and you're unlocking it almost becomes like this fighting game where you have so many different moves that you're able to pull off at any given time, and the freedom in combat is just next level. It's one of the best open world games of all time. It's a masterpiece. And yeah, that is my tier maker video ranking some of the greatest open world games of all time. I hope you all enjoyed this. Let me know down in the comments below, what are some of your favorite open world games of all time? What on this list would you change around? What on this list that I have low would you say, hey, maybe check that out again? I think you might enjoy it a little bit more. Do keep in mind, this list is just my personal list. Everyone can have their own opinion. Nothing wrong with that. I am always open ears to hearing the different opinions out there. So shoot the breeze with me in the comments. But that is going to be it for today's video. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you guys on the other side. Stay safe, subscribe if you're new, and yeah, hope you all the best. See you soon. Goodbye.